Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command World War II, World at War. This is episode number 61 of our Let's Play series, where we're playing as the Allies. We're into late 1944, the war on the Russian front is not going well. Moscow has adjacent units to it now that could begin the attack on Moscow. There's a salient out to the west of Moscow, and the alternate Soviet capital is under some pressure as well. China is barely hanging on. The Allies aren't doing well anywhere except perhaps approaching the Japanese front, but I'm not quite sure how soon we might be able to launch an attack against Japan proper. We really need to pull the fleet back to Hawaii to refit it and upgrade its units to make sure that they're a tip-top shape prior to the invasion of Japan. So we're realistically probably 4 or 5 turns away from an invasion of Japan still at this point in time. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump back in. This was taken from a live stream on my Twitch channel. There's a link in the description if you want to go ahead and join, but that's why sometimes you see some drop-downs, some overlays, some sound effects, and some interaction with the audience. I hope you do enjoy the series. Leave me your thoughts, and I'll catch you guys at the end. And then into November of 1944. Turkey going to the Allies would be a short-term nice thing because they've got a decent number of troops, but it would probably long-term just give Germany more money. But it's another distraction for their forces, at least. A nice breakthrough there for industrial technology for the Americans. Gets them closer to the next level up. The British would have an income of like 700 if they weren't diverting it to the USSR. Granted, 200 of that's coming from the US. So if we can knock Japan out of the war, I know the Soviet Union gives the Germans a lot more, but if we can knock Japan out of the war, we might have a chance against the Germans. Although I think it would turn into such a slog that the game would probably end in a draw sometime in 46. All right, so we can see that the other German unit, or the other unit that the Japanese added, is a light cruiser. So it looks like they now have 2 carriers and a light cruiser, as well as 2 submarines. I think that's their 5 naval units. You can see there they attacked our subs, and was it the Sea of Japan, or was it the Chinese? Where was it? I didn't quite. It wasn't the Sea of Japan. All right, so rainy weather is good for us over Moscow. That means the German Air Force will be grounded. They won't be able to bomb any of our units around Moscow. So a good result there. Apparently they can bomb the units near Perth, though. The weather's good there. And in the Middle East, who would have thunk? More V-weapon attacks on the southern portion of Great Britain. German panzers are attempting to reduce a salient of infantry here southwest of Moscow, and they do so. We also lose some troops to the east of Moscow on a rail line, a strategic rail line. Bashan Sun-Owellen, thanks for the follow. Magnetorsk loses its corps south of Perm. That'll give the Germans better supplies, I think, in the front near Perth. So by destroying that unit south of Moscow, they have allowed them to bring a 3rd unit to the front of Moscow. They haven't actually started attacking Moscow proper yet, though. There goes the British Corps in Iran. Curious if my shock army can effectively counterattack that German army west of Perm. Be great if we get into a situation where they bring units forward piecemeal, they don't have enough supply to stay there, and then we can slowly destroy them and whittle them away, at least inflicting some attrition on the Germans. At least that's my hope. Meanwhile, the Japanese have begun their advance on Umrichi. You can see there they just moved toward Guangzhou. Some strategic redeployments. They are moving a headquarters unit there forward toward Perm over there on the right side of the screen. Japanese retook the oil wells. Tehran is recaptured by the Germans. Chongqing is completely surrounded. They didn't make much progress in reducing it, though. They did inflict some casualties on one of the armies there, but not on Chongqing itself. I should also be able to upgrade the army north of Chongqing now, since they didn't attack there. They, quote-unquote, liberate Persia, Japan is launching thousands of balloon bombs against the United States. And that's what's going on. All right. So that turn we lost the 4th Soviet Army, the 4th Soviet Corps. The Yugoslav partisans were destroyed. The 8th Corps was destroyed. So the Soviets lost 2 corps, 1 army. The British lost a garrison, and the Australians lost the West Force Corps. Maidstone was damaged by bombing. 12th Army suffers attrition losses for the Japanese. I'm not sure where that 12th Army is. Might be actually on the east coast of Borneo where they just retook those oil wells. There's no real good supply route there. Intelligence detects things you can't do anything about. Thanks, my lads. Thank you for the intel. All right, so Japanese light cruisers now off Nagasaki. We got a Soviet Corps and an Indian Special Forces Corps this turn, as we're now in November. God, these guys can't do anything. I guess I just have to reinforce and hope for the best. I mean, I really can't do much. Could move them into that salient, but they would just die right away. Alright, so we've sort of reinforced the front around Moscow as it becomes more and more vulnerable. Reinforce the troops in front of Perm. It's going to be a passive turn for the Soviets. I don't want these guys to lose their entrenchment. I'm going to move the shock army north because maybe I can turn around and hit these guys, this army up here, next turn or something to that effect. So we'll hold in place there, and then we'll deploy the new Soviet unit near Perm as well. Actually, we'll deploy it north of Kazan, and then I will make a drive south on Kazan. I'm thinking they've probably vacated these rail lines, and that could complicate their supply situation. We'll see. Might be waste, but... Meanwhile, since I've already done the Soviets, I might as well go ahead and purchase their units. So we have 206 left. That's good enough to replace an army we just lost. So the Soviets now have 2 corps and an army coming in November and December. And then 1 mechanized unit coming in January 45. All right, that's that. Let's move to the European theater for the Western Allies. Reinforce this American armored unit that suffered heavy casualties. Attack these German paratroopers here. Apparently those guys are not able to inflict any casualties on them. That's great. They're right next to a frickin' headquarters, and they can't reinforce. They can't buy any frickin' reinforcements. How is the supply in adjacent hex not any good? All right. Americans here. No reinforcements there. Mashby, thanks for the follow. All right, let's reinforce this carrier here in southern England. Heavy cruiser as well. Meanwhile, the South African headquarter unit. That destroyer has no upgrades, so we'll move it north, where we're beginning to concentrate our navy there. We'll move the headquarter unit in. Alright, that light cruiser's also maxed out. So we'll move it north. This heavy cruiser needs upgrades. And this carrier needs to upgrade its its fighters to level 4, range, and naval weaponry. It's 106. That's a big investment there. This guy also has to upgrade. Slightly less expensive. 2 big carrier upgrades for the British. Should help in the war against the German fleet. Upgrade those cruisers, reinforce these carriers. That battleship will move up to Glasgow to get its reinforcements. These heavy cruisers will move north, and we are building a strong fleet for a Jutland-like battle in the Norwegian Sea against the German Navy. They even have an aircraft carrier up here. Just hanging out in the ice flows. Don't worry about them. All right, so we'll move these guys up to Edinburgh. We'll move the mechanized unit up toward Edinburgh. I could use an American headquarter there. But they're kind of both needed to hold the line in Spain, at least for now. I mean, realistically, it's probably a few more turns before we do anything there. See if we can take Bari next turn. Are there any troops in Naples? Okay. Okay, so that's the situation there. Meanwhile, Tehran has fallen. I'm really hoping that the Germans don't advance any further into Iran. We really can't afford, supply-wise, to advance further. Okay. We'll bring these Indian troops into Rangoon because they're going to head east of Kunming. Do I lose my entrenchment for attacking there? It doesn't look like it. All right. So we reinforced our troops in China as well as attacking that Japanese mechanized unit there, or armored unit. Pull this corps back toward Umrichi. Okay, that does it for the Chinese front. I don't know if I want to wait to upgrade all these units back to level 10 strength. Meanwhile, Guam has fallen to the Allies, or to the Americans specifically. First mechanized. I guess we'll put these guys on Wake. All right, these airborne units are going to go to Okinawa so they can land on the mainland without using a long-range transport, and then this Marine Division will probably go to Guam. You know what sucks is I can't upgrade the I don't want to have to pull everybody back. All the way to Pearl. Just to get the upgrades they need, but that might be the right thing to do. Just so we can get these guys all in full strength, because the Japanese have a lot of land-based naval power in China, so I think we have to do this. There's no bases in the Pacific that allow me to get everybody back up to full strength. Some of the smaller ones will let me upgrade their units, but I think I need to pull everybody, almost everybody, back to Pearl. Not all of them. Again, some of these cruisers or whatnot that are already at full strength, these escort carriers that are already at full strength can do the air group upgrades they need. But they can't get up to level 10, which I think for the air groups is going to be important. Okay. Right, so these guys can upgrade to full. All right, so the one we do have an Australian headquarter, which will be useful, I think, in the invasion of Japan. Okay. Someone said something about the Allies getting access to nukes at some point. I'm not sure what triggers it. But someone did say that. Maybe someone was a liar? I don't know. Alright, so the Philippines are now completely liberated. We'll have 1 corps, 2 corps, 3 Australian corps, and a special forces unit. So 4 Australian ground units can assist in the invasion of Japan, which will be nice. Alright, so detected him. The only people who need advanced subs are the British. They're the only ones. Alright, let's see, can we... Alright, so we found the other Japanese carrier. I should have done that at first. Yeah, we sank it! Alright! Nice little national morale bonus there, too, for the British. 630 plus. So one of the Japanese carriers is gone. That brings their naval strength back from 5 down to 4. German naval strength is 23. It's increasing, so they're building new ships. Just as we're preparing to try and crush them. Japanese don't appear to be building more ground units right now, which is interesting. The Amagi is in the Yellow Sea. So these 2, and then I think 2 subs based somewhere. Okay. You know, maybe the Australians even stage landings at Hong Kong, Fuzhou, and Shanghai. Who knows what the right approach is? But you know, get in the rear and take some national morale objectives to hurt them a bit. Does Australia have level 10 ports? Those might be closer than Pearl and not as easily overwhelmed. The answer to that is no. Some of these guys... Okay. Is that everybody this turn? Got the reinforcements coming. They're going to land on some different islands. More than one headquarter might be needed for the Americans. Singapore's, I guess the Sudan, the troops in Sudan, the Corps in Sudan, we're going to transport, but I ran out of money for the British. The Russians already spent their money. The Americans still have money, and the Indians have a little bit of money. So we also have new units. We'll deploy the Indian Special Forces unit near the border. So we'll get them forward with Slim's HQ to defend the border of India via Burma. There's mountains that make advancing directly on India through Tibet more difficult. Okay. So I think the U.S. will buy another headquarters unit. Those things are expensive. We'll do it anyway. That's pretty much all our money right there. So Patton is on the way. He'll be coming in January of 45. The one headquarter unit we have in the Pacific is MacArthur. Okay. Taiwan, I think, has troops in it. I also didn't leave any money to send them on transports, but I think the Japanese have troops on Taiwan. We can double check. We'll give it a go after this turn. Meanwhile, you can see naval supplies kind of interlinked now between... well, no, we haven't gotten credit for taking Guam yet, so that should help. Okay. All right, the Idaho will pull back toward Pearl as well. It's going to be like a 2 to 3 turn upgrade process in Pearl. But I think that does it for this turn. We'll probably get one more in tonight. Been going for about an hour. Attacking through the Himalayas is not the way. Yeah, attacking through the Himalayas, I don't even know. I remember when I was playing as Japan trying to attack India, it was very difficult to get movement points enough to move through there, so. Barney Bootcut, thanks for the follow. All right, so let's go ahead and end the turn, and we will see what the next turn has in store for us. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for episode number 61 of our Let's Play series, looking at Strategic Command, World War II, World at War. We have liberated Guam from the Japanese, so all of the Mariana Islands are now in our control. The battle for Moscow is sort of in full swing. The end result is pretty much inevitable, but for now we're continuing to hang on and delaying the Germans as much as we can. And that's kind of the situation. Not a lot of other changes at the moment. We're still gradually preparing to get our troops into the right positions and get our fleet upgraded for the invasion of Japan, which will come in the not-too-distant future. But until next time, this is the Historical Gamer once again saying thank you very much for watching, and as always, until next time, I'm out.